at the city of Maplewood because there really are so many things that they are up to and so many things that they give us ability to have commentary on based upon the things that they are doing. So I think, one of the things that we are going to be talking about today, of course, are budgets, because certainly our state is being faced with big budget issues. The county has got some budget issues that they're addressing. And of course, Maplewood now has discovered that they too are going to be having some budget issues. And of course, this was one of the things that certainly a couple of years back when I was mayor, that I had indicated that we should be planning for, because based upon the economic trends and some of the forecasters that I was looking at, some of those forecasting indicators that I was looking at, I had the idea that we should be looking ahead to what our spending might be in the future, and that actually our spending in 2009 and 2010 should have been capped at the 2007 and 2008 levels, so that way we would be prepared indeed for the recession that was starting to occur at that time, and the recession that I predicted was going to be ongoing for the next couple of years, and probably my predictions are until the year about 2013. And so anyway, now the city of Maplewood, lo and behold, has discovered that indeed they probably should have planned a little bit better. And now a lot of things are going to be put on hold, and they've got to figure out how to prioritize some of their spending in the next coming budget. So we have some film footage today of the workshop that was recently held by the Maplewood City Council on July 15th. Now you may be asking yourself, well, isn't that a Thursday? Maybe you've got the wrong date, Diana. No, we don't have the wrong date. It was indeed July 15th, and it was a Thursday. Now, of course, normally the City Council has their workshops on Monday evenings because people are accustomed to watching the workshops on Monday evenings, because that's typically when you would have also a council meeting. Certainly on the second and fourth Mondays of the month, you would have your council meetings. Sometimes there's workshops right before the council meetings, or sometimes the workshop is on a Monday that's not a council meeting night. But to have a workshop on a Thursday, well, gee whiz, you would have to be a pretty smart citizen watching those postings all the time to know that the workshop was going to be held on a date other than a Monday. So anyway, it's probably a good way to talk about some things with the least amount of public exposure, because even though it is televised and they do broadcast it, rebroadcast it from time to time, if people aren't thinking that a workshop's going to be on a Thursday, well, there might not be that many people watching. So let's take a look at some of our film footage, and of course we will show some footage and then come back and I'll do a little bit more of a commentary and discussion, and in some things also maybe a little bit more explanation to be able to give you a feeling of exactly what is being discussed, because this workshop was over 2 hours in length. Our program is 1 hour in length, and so of course we can't cover the whole entire workshop. And I should mention that the workshop also just a second here. Just one thing I want to let the viewers know about is that prior to the council starting to prioritize the various different items for the upcoming budget, they were given different colored markers. So throughout the meeting, you will hear them referencing red, yellow, green. Well, green means go, red means no, and yellow means, well, I'm kind of sitting on the fence and I'd kind of like to fund it, but I'm not really sure. So that's the system, the priority system that the council is using. Now, of course, they didn't really talk about the criteria and how they were determining whether or not something was a green, a red, or a yellow as individuals, how they would determine that. It's just basically their gut feel. So let's start with that film footage that we've got. and then we'll come back.
Where there's just no way that we can save out of the existing budget for improvements or expansions or even just maintenance of city facilities. So I would propose that the council start looking at perhaps setting on their pencil, on their cuffs, or on the back of their envelopes or whatever.
There you go. Now that, of course, is Mr. Jim Antonin, who is the city manager, number 1 of the city of Maplewood. And of course, we also have our second city manager, Mr. All, who was not at this meeting that evening. So Mr. Antonin, city manager number 1, was in the process of running the meeting and working with the council and helping them through this. But don't you find this curious that, of course, here we are, we've got the city of Maplewood with an approximately annual budget of $40 million a year, and the city manager is talking about the council, well, let's just see, maybe you can kind of pencil out some of the things you'd like for the budget on the back of your envelope. Now, when you're talking about a $40 million budget annually, let's hope we're doing more than just using the back of an envelope to be able to do our annual budget. Let's continue on.
That some of these unmet needs may be met by the council when the 2013, and I believe it's 2013 referendum expires, the open space referendum. And so, as you may recall, we were talking about, well, the part of the roof on the
So now what Mr. Antonin is talking about is that for those of you who have lived in Maplewood quite a while, you probably remember back at about when was it, 1993 it was, or 95, well, I don't know, 95 maybe, I'm not sure. I'll have to look at my dates on that. However, what happened is that the city, of course, they had a referendum in order to purchase open space, which of course are our neighborhood preserves. And of course that, as you heard, that referendum, that expires in 2013. So what they're envisioning is that once that expires, then they will float another referendum to talk about these unmet needs, such as perhaps the roof for the community center or other items. So once you're done with one referendum, you can look forward to a new referendum. Good thing to think about coming up into 2013. So let's continue on with our film footage.
Community center has a life of 2030. But the rounded part, I think Larry Farr, our chief building engineer, said that maybe need to be replaced within the next, or repaired in the next 5 to 7 years. Park maintenance items, different things in the parks that have needed to be refurbished. I was just visiting with Bill Mallon, the city manager of Roseville, just before the meeting, and they're talking about, they're looking at a referendum just to fix things that have worn out, and there isn't money from the existing operating budget to do that. The police chief.
Now keep in mind, in Roseville, of course, besides their, they have, of course, their city hall, but they also have the Oval, which is a covered ice skating rink, and attached to that, I believe, there's also a community center type of facility, not like what Maplewood has, but keep in mind there's a lot different kind of maintenance concerns with a ice arena versus what we have with our community center, which has a pool. Of course, there's maintenance needs for both of them, but they are different indeed. So let's continue on.
Fire station, or no, that should be a police department, shouldn't it? The fire chief would like, we might give him one bay in the new fire station or something like that. Dewey has a lot of items.
So let's back that up a little bit. So what's the confusion here? Is the police department getting something with the fire department, or is the fire department getting something with the police department? Are we not really quite sure which department is getting what? I'm not sure. Let's see if we can listen to that again.
We've all talked about different things in public works. So those items that we cannot readily meet within the existing budget, I think we need to put into a special category and give the taxpayers enough time between now and 2013 so that we can make a case for fixing or adding or expanding facilities that are needed, such as the Maplewood Community Center. Also, I would ask that again.
So there you heard it, citizens. This will give us enough time to make our case to the citizens. Okay, we are in the year 2010. They're looking at a referendum in 2013. So this is what you're going to be able to hear for the next couple of years. You will be hearing promotional information in the Maplewood Monthly, at the city council meetings, and whatever other means that they have to be able to encourage the citizens to support voting for a referendum in 2013. Now, of course, you will hear all the reasons why it must be done, why these things are going to hell in a handbasket. I bet, though, you won't find or hear of any other alternatives other than approving the referendum. So mark my words, listen carefully when you start listening to the council meetings, when you start reading your Maplewood Monthly, when you start hearing and listening to council members speak. You will hear the bottom party line of the city administration, which is, oh, please vote for the referendum in 2013, and that way we can, well, we can take care of things then. Okay, let's continue.
Talking about 2010, but there is a MCC TSE cleaning in your list there. I left that in there because I don't want to lose track of that, and I want the council to know that we haven't lost track of that issue and that we're going to try to address that within the 2010 budget. Whether we're successful or not, I don't know, but I wanted to make sure that that you know that we are not overlooking different things. So, Mayor, that's kind of a brief overview.
So now, for those of you who are wondering, what was that about? Okay, first of all, the MCC, what that stands for is the Maplewood Community Center. Now, of course, the Maplewood Community Center, they have their own custodial on-staff city employees who work there, and I understand that one of them has either been moved to another building or somewhere else, and so actually the cleaning staff that takes care of the community center and makes sure that it's up to snuff day in and day out, one of the most heavily used facilities that the city owns, much more heavily used, of course, than the Public Works Department, than even probably City Hall, because the community center is where the public who go there are there in and out every day, and that includes kids and families and elderly people and regular members and also visitors. And so there's a lot of usage at the community center, and so it is indeed a facilities that definitely needs to have good custodial services especially at the end of the day, to get it ready for the next day. Now, you heard him talk about TSE. And of course, what is TSE? Well, TSE is an organization that at one time had a contract with the city of Maplewood to provide some custodial services to the community center. Now, I say some services because they did not provide all of the custodial services, because we still had, of course, our own city employees who provided the bulk of those custodial services, because the people on staff are adults who have done this for a long time. This is their profession, and they're very professional and skilled. Now, the employees that would be contracted for through TSE